Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Satyajit here and you're watching Satyajit's artwork. In this video, I'm going to paint a full-fledged portrait with an external light source. Not only I'm going to discuss about the various aspects of painting a portrait, but along with that, I will also try to give my inputs on how the external light, in this particular case an earthen lamp which this girl is holding on her hand, is going to impact the overall look of this portrait. Along with that, I'll also discuss whether it is very much essential or whether it is mandatory to use the blending brush or the smudge tool in order to make something look realistic, or whether you can actually make things look realistic without even using the smudge tool, although it depends on your style. If you are looking for something which is very digital looking, which is not using any sort of texture, in that case maybe this will not be the case. But in this video, I'm going to give you a convincing idea about the fact that you can actually make something look convincing and realistic enough without even using the smudge tool. So at this point in time, you can see that what I am painting is the eye area, and at this stage I am defining the basic color for the area around the eyes, and you can see that it's an amalgamation of different colors. Often when we think of digital painting, we just think like that. We don't need a good sense of color in this particular case, because it is not like traditional painting that and all these colors are getting submerged, and there is a correlation between each color and we need to take care of each of them individually. But we kind of think like that we will put a block of color and then maybe we'll just make it look something which looks very cartoony or stylized. Well, if that's the thing you are looking for, in that case that approach will work just fine. But if you are looking to make things lifelike, in that case all these subtle differences are really essential. As in this case, you can see that right now where I'm working at this pupil of the eye, you can see how gradually I have changed the gradation of the colors from darker value to the reflection of the light on her pupil, which is coming from the earthen lamp, which is the primary source of lighting in this particular case, and all these things are actually making it look more convincing and realistic. So I am just working the similar ways here. You can see how gradually the eye is coming to life, and it is not the process of just putting a single layer and you will see the magic happening. It is not like that. You need to build it layer by layer, and it's a time consuming process. Anyways guys, the thing which I was saying is that you actually don't need to use a smudge tool or a blending brush in order to make things look realistic. You can actually use the gradual values of the color in order to bring that transition in your paintings where things look realistic without even blending. Like when I used to paint with acrylics or other mediums, I'm not speaking of watercolor because that's a different medium altogether, but the mediums which are kind of similar like acrylic or gouache, in those mediums also I never used any blending brush, because I always approached the painting in this manner. I just use the gradual changes in the color hues and values to its fullest in order to make the thing look realistic. So that things becomes really essential at this point in time to keep in mind if you are not going to use any blending tools for that matter. In this case, the blending tool means smudge brush or the certain kind of tools that you are going to use in order to make things look realistic. Well, while I was working with the other opaque mediums like gouache or acrylic, I actually never tried to use any blending brush for that matter. I always tried to use the variation in the values to its fullest use in order to make things look realistic or to bring out that feel of depth in the subject matter along with its characteristic, which I tried to capture without actually making a whole lot of blending. And that's the case here as well, because I'm approaching it in a similar manner. Like for this area here, you can see that the way how I approach the lips, I just put a value underneath, and after that it was just the transition of the values, and you can see that there is canvas texture showing through, and I personally like this. And when there is texture, you actually don't need a whole lot of transition unless you are just going for photorealism or hyperrealism. If you are going into that arena, then you may need to use a very smooth transition from one color to another. But if you are going to use this particular approach, in that case you actually don't need a whole lot of smooth transition and blending, because the gap between the two values is also been compensated, or rather complemented, by all these textures that are showing through. One thing I would like to add, that for this particular portrait you have seen that the teeth area is actually not white. When we try to paint areas like that which are supposed to be white, like we all know that teeth are mostly white, so we kind of get overwhelmed by that fact, and we don't give emphasis on the things like ambient lighting and the reflected light, which is going to create an impact on the overall look of the subject. And we need to keep that in mind. Like I try to put the impact of those lighting on the teeth as well, and you can see that it's all looking as a unit for that area. If I would have painted them stark white, in that case the teeth would have looked like it is very much artificial, and it is being placed there without any relevance to the remaining of the portrait. So keeping that in mind is very essential. Now you can see that I'm just working on that earring she is wearing, and it is also very much essential to bring that effect on the area. Now at this stage I am just working on her hairs, and I'm just using the bold brushwork at this stage because I want to keep it very loose, and I'm not looking for very detailed rendering at this stage. Rather, I'm going to use that thing in a more impressionist manner, where I'll try to capture the impact of lighting on specific areas. Now one thing is very essential here to understand, that although I am not painting each individual hairs, but the stroke and the direction of the brushwork is very important in order to make things look convincing. Now at this stage you can see that how slowly I'm developing the transitional value in the hairs. Although the hair is looking very much artificial at this stage, but the way how it has been implemented, it's all going to come together with this portrait and going to make it look a whole thing, rather than just making it an isolation where all the things are looking an unit, which is very essential to understand when you are doing something of this sort. Now at this stage I'm just working on the dress, and I'm also using very loose brushwork at this stage because I want to keep it more impressionist in nature. As you can see that in this particular case I didn't try to put a whole lot of attention to intricate details. I just tried to capture the overall look of that area. Now at this stage I'm just working on the hand area, and you can see that how I'm just laying the basic base color at this stage. It is basically a flat color, but let me tell you one thing, I could have used a selection tool like lasso or other selection tool for putting a flat color in this area, but using that only gives you a very that kind of flat effect which looks very artificial. Rather, if you use a brush with pan pressure on, in that case it gives you certain variation which looks more naturalistic and kind of traditional in terms of its look. So I prefer that because that's my style of working, and thus I didn't use any selection tool in order to put the flat color. I always try to use the brush for that matter, because even the slightest of the variation makes a whole lot of difference in the overall look of the thing. Now at this stage you can see that I'm just working on the certain areas of the hairs, and I'm just fine tuning a few of the things. Now at this stage I'm just working on the earthen lamp, and you can see that I am just putting certain values and not working much. At this stage you can see that I'm just working on the nails, and it's only the fine tuning that I'm doing right now. For this earthen lamp I am mostly using the similar values on the scale of brown, which is quite understandable because earthen lamp are mostly into that color. And along with that I'm also using some highlighted areas where the effect of yellow light is very much evident. I also used a decorative motif in order to make the thing look more decorative and festive. Now I'm just working on the background, and I can say the least for this background because it was just a design choice that I took upon in order to bind together the whole composition. So I hope guys from today's video you have been able to learn certain things which you can actually implement on your work while approaching a painting of this sort, be it a full-fledged portrait or a character drawing or whatever you want to approach. So if you feel like that my videos are helpful and informative, then please consider subscribing to my channel, because it really helps. It will really encourage me to work more and bring this sort of content for you. Also don't forget to like this video and also share your comments guys. I'm really looking forward to read your comments, and you know, it's a two-way communication. When you share your thoughts I will be able to learn from it and can make my content better. So with saying that, I'd like to conclude this video. See you soon with my next video. Till then, take care, and I hope you will do well with your painting endeavor.